Hello and welcome to the Closet Podcast. I'm Dr. Sam. How are you doing, Dr. Robert?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. So you're freshly back from Kansas City, aren't you?
Yes, Lily well, actually I worked yesterday, but before that, the day before. So I kind of just came back and I have a couple more days of work here. But
I know
yeah,
you were
came back
like
from
you were like there and then back. Like that was really quick, I feel like.
it's one of the shorter veterinary conferences for a reason. It's mainly it's different from most veterinary conferences that you and I probably attend.
Uh-huh.
It's a little more of like executives and like chief marketing people that are like there to like really learn about where the industry is going as opposed to like where you and I usually go. It's more continuing education, like things to learn. Like there's 40 hours of literally just continuous lectures about veterinary medicine, where this
Right.
is, I mean, maybe 7 to 8 that are more like keynote speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
we had some pretty cool ones, actually. One of the like animators from Disney was there, and he was like our
That's
first
cool.
keynote speaker, and just talking about like how to be creative and how that should be used in all industries, including vet med. And he was very cool to listen to. He kind of reminded me of, Independence Day.
Yeah.
He reminded me like of a better looking, the crazy scientist that like the gray hair that goes down here. He's like trying to work with the aliens the whole time. Got the glasses.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like a better looking version of that. But kind of just like really excited, really like passionate about what he's talking about.
Right.
But had like the long gray hair, was very much reminiscent of that. But yeah.
Well, those people are always the most interesting to listen to, right? Like people who like genuinely enjoy what they're doing and have like a real passion for it. And because you can sort of get, I think that's why I like conferences because like you're like among people like being reminded of like what you're excited about, why you're here to begin with. And so it's cool. I like this whole idea. I'm sad I couldn't go. One, because I have friends in Kansas City. I love Kansas City. And I also like to see you and go to conferences.
Well,
All
I
those things,
appreciate it.
but, we had some milestones here in the Dawson family, so, we
Huh.
had our youngest go to kindergarten, and that was a pretty big deal.
And
So
that's an
good with that.
extremely big deal. Well, that's
Yeah,
one I feel bad I missed that actually. So that'd be, that is a very big deal for Sir
yeah.
Henry. So
Yes, it was. It was. Master Henry was very, very excited to go to to
he's
see.
like freedom.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's sort of how I felt actually, because I was like, "They all went to the same place at the same time.
Like, nice.
I have a minute." So, yeah, it was pretty cool. But, yeah, they and his big sisters were helpful. They made sure he got where he needed to go, and then he got back on the bus with them, and it was
That's
very cute.
cute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They took him under his wing because I have one now in 5th grade, which is crazy. That's Charlotte, and then I know, time flies. But, like,
Yeah,
that's it, like, she's, like they're, like, the oldest, like, 5th grade is the last year of elementary school, then she goes to middle school, so so she's got the big kid, and then we got the little kid, and then we got the one in the middle, but
that's
she's in
crazy to me.
3rd grade. I know, it's nuts.
Wow. Good parenting there.
Time flies. Well,
They're all
we
good
we
kids.
try, we try. We survive in advance. That's how it feels. But that's okay. Um, anyway, so I wanna know, I know you one of the things that was a big deal, and it's not just in veterinary medicine, but just, like, everywhere these days, is the whole sort of change or, I don't know, growth with AI, right? So that's sort of the big
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah, and I think and that was definitely a dominant conversation at this conference,
right?
how AI can impact our lives for different reasons. And I think the two big like things I'd be curious to get your thoughts on things
Mhm.
too, because one was it's new, it's scary. How do you regulate it, right? Like it's a brand new thing.
Mhm.
What are the things that we can do to help like really control it? Because even in schools, like you're probably running this soon with your kids. Like AI, ChatGPT can do so much for us, but it can also write a report for kids so they don't have to read the book.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think right now it's still very obvious when AI has like drawn a picture, made a thing. Like you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like you
Yeah,
can see it and you're like, that's got 3 arms. I mean, that's not real. But like, or you can just like you can tell the tone of AI.
mhm,
Like when you read it, you're like, oh,
yeah,
that was definitely not written by a person. But that's now. I mean, 5 years from now, I mean, maybe even a year from now. You know what I mean? Like it will be able to take on, I think, the tone of the person it's emulating or whatever
yeah,
because it learns. I mean, isn't that the whole point of it? Is that it like takes what it knows and then learns in a way that's sort of, I don't know, I mean, infinite, right? Like isn't that the
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. I think that's it's cool about it because even, and we'll get into like some of the other side of it as well. Is like how it can help improve veterinary medicine in some
Mhm.
cool ways. But it's got a lot of potential, but it's got a lot of scary parts to it. Even in our own industry, like you have to worry about like HIPAA compliance now, and there's just a lot of details around like what's okay to access, what's not, how much can we
Right.
truly automate.
Mhm.
So that was definitely an interesting part of the conference, like talking about that. But how
Mhm.
it's gonna help grow our profession, like save us time, I think will be the most interesting thing. And actually, I might even try to use one of the resources myself. So I'll share that one with you afterwards. It might help both our lives. I'm curious if you'll like.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I can tell you, like, my only brush with AI at the moment really is,
yeah,
like, the so I haven't really been able to institute it yet because just the way that everything takes time when you're first starting something new, and the thing I don't have ever is time to start something, and also it doesn't quite exactly fit in our medical records just yet, but I've been sort of toying with those ones that listen to you while you, do
mhm,
your, exam or whatever, and then it sort of filters out the extraneous stuff and like, so that's through AI that it's doing
yeah,
it and it's how it's doing it. And and it's getting better and better. I mean, even sometimes when I'm like making a phone call or sending an email or something like I'll just dictate it, and then I only
yeah.
have to make minimal changes. And I mean, I can type, but I'm not a fast typer. So when I can do that, I really am like I save a good few minutes doing that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the how good it's gotten is what impressed me this conference.
Yeah.
So we went there. They usually bring about 10 companies that are kind of helping change the industry
Mhm.
at this conference. We were one of them, so that was cool. Yay, my belt toe.
Yay.
So that was one of the cool things. But
Yeah.
so that was nice being one of those companies. But on the other side of it, there's a lot of companies that were doing the AI medical like scribe writing, and not just
Yeah.
like medical record writing, but also like an assistant part of it as
Mhm.
well, where like it did features for you that were not just like helping fill prescriptions, stuff like that. So there's some cool things coming down the line, which will be time savers. But there's one I really liked. I think it was called Vet Rec. I got there's so many of them now. Where I actually did like a practice demo thing with it, and it wrote my entire soap notes for me in like 15 seconds, and it
Yeah.
was nice. So like I was like, and I actually didn't what I wouldn't have changed anything because I did a really good job of it. So I was
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
so
I think
that's
that's key, right? Is that, like, because a lot of times you still have to go back and, like, sort of kinda mess with things and fix things or whatever, and then you're like, "Oh, well," it's yeah, it saved some time, but it didn't save all the time. So that's where I am right now with the one that I am trying is just, like, kinda toying with it a little bit and seeing, like,
okay.
if this is gonna work, you know what I mean?
Mhm. And the whole point of these software, the reason why veterinary medicine needs to use AI at some point, is just because like how much we don't have enough people to do what
Yeah,
we need to do. We're short on veterinarians. Some of the statistics they're saying were scary.
yeah,
Like they and if they did a survey last year of veterinarians, and I think they said 30% would leave the field in the next year if they could. Like, that's
wow.
when people are tired and stressed out from this job. It's not because they don't love animals, that's not the issue. It's just a different stress level than they were anticipating before they got
Yeah,
into school,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't blame
yeah.
them. It's tough,
Yeah.
but that
Well,
was kinda
it's
scary.
tough. We've talked about it so many times, like, it's tough on so many levels because it's like you work really, really hard. You do a lot of work and you do work that like frankly, like in the human world, our jobs would be like much better compensated than they are. And not
Yeah,
that it's all about money, but like it is really hard when you are taking time away from your family, taking time away from like the things that you need to do to be healthy, to be balanced and all those types of things. And you're like just spending your time doing veterinary medicine. And then you're met with angry people who feel like you haven't done anything. And it's like, all I've been doing is
yep,
literally letting my life suffer for like trying to, you know what I mean? And like,
mhm,
I think that that's where the hard part is. And I think that that's not true every day. You know what I mean? Like there are some very joyful days that are, you feel very appreciated and like you feel like
honestly.
people like really appreciate that you went above and beyond. But the constant sort of, like, feeling like, for me, I think the biggest struggle and the medical records is a huge one. It's like, I come home and have 2 hours worth of work to do, and then it's like, well, I have to balance that with having 3 kids, and so I don't even look at that work until after they're asleep, which then means I don't sleep, so
And I think
that's
the
not
record I
sustainable.
think, it's not, and I think the record's probably the biggest pain point for most veterinarians. Like, if
Yeah.
I could tell you right now you'll never have to write another record again, I I'd have the highest job satisfaction because of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah,
So
for sure.
I think
'Cause
that's why a
everything
lot of
else can roll off a little bit more. Like, it's more
exactly.
so, like, you could I think, like, an angry client here or there could roll off a little bit more, and you'd be able to, like, really appreciate the ones that are really kind, which is actually more of them, right? Like, a lot more
Yeah.
of them. It's just sometimes the angry ones are the ones that are the most hurtful. But then if you're sitting there sort of stewing in it, having to do more work, then you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it could free you a lot to go do something else away from
Oh,
work.
absolutely. And honestly, just allow for accuracy. I think that's
Mhm.
one nice thing because I mean, how many times we get into a room and owner's like, "No, you didn't say that." Now it can actually be kinda caught and be like, "I did, actually. It was recorded, and I have proof that I literally said this to you, and you said you understood."
Right.
So, it's I think there's and not that we're trying to catch people, that's not the whole point, but more just like
No.
it allows for more accurate information, which I think is also very cool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um
And there are a lot of times too where, like, I'll just get really busy in a day and it's like I had a very extensive conversation with this owner and I sort of shorthand it later because I can't remember exactly what I said, but it's like, and also I don't have 20 minutes to sit here and write every last thing that I said because I literally talked to them for 20 minutes. And to me, that's a more important interaction than the writing of the record later, but I do have to be accurate. So you're right.
Mhm.
Like it would be really nice to just already have that written. And
Yeah, I it's a new feature that and I don't you and I will chat about one about afterwards that you should
yeah,
maybe check out to see if you like. I'm trying I'm gonna pay for it myself. I'm just like, you know what, it's worth trying out, and they giving me a 2-week free trial. So it would save
nice.
me a ton of time on records, which I'd be more than happy to get back in that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Totally fine. But the other one that I was curious about if it came up at all, just because 'cause I've seen a couple, is like the AI review of like radiographs and things like that. Like, did
Yep.
that come up at all?
Yeah, so that was the next one, was Radimal. Pretty cool, actually, and the story is actually similar to Nathan and I, ironically enough, in terms of its 2 brothers.
Oh,
One was, like, in the tech space, the other one was a radiologist, and apparently they were gonna meet for dinner one night, and their brother came over who was in tech and was like, "Hey, you ready to go?" He's like, "Hey, man, I can't. I got so many, like, radiographs to read, and, like, I just I'm behind." And he looked at, like, his computer screen, he's like, "This is, like, something from, like, Microsoft '95, like, this is he's like, "atrocious," like, "I can fix this." And that's kinda how they started, and now they've developed a company that's, 1, offers a lot of cool features about yes, they can AI uses AI to read the radiographs and tells you exactly, like, where they're concerned about and the percentage of concern. So I liked it, and they still have the option for a radiologist to review it if you want that as well.
oh, that's cool.
So it's kind of like a nice feature to like, hey, I want a feedback for this as well. But they get turnaround times in less than like 40 minutes, which is great, and it's pretty cool what they can do, and they're growing like exponentially. So I think that also be the predominant player pretty soon here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like that would be such a great thing because I always have a fear that I'm missing something on a
Mhm.
radiograph, especially like no matter how many times I read thoracic radiographs and go to like, all the CE that I can go to, there's so many variables of things that can be normal or slightly abnormal. And it's like
Yeah.
you just always even like I had a cat the other day and like I was just like, I mean, I just don't think that there was like a linear foreign body, but I'm like, but, you're, like, looking at the gas pattern, and you're like, I mean, I can't 100% say it's not. So I ended up keeping the cat, doing some fluids, like, rechecking the radiographs later, and then that area of concern went away, but I was just like, you know what I mean? Like, it would be
Yeah.
nice to just have sort of an algorithm that just kinda goes like, "Hey, you're fine, like, you're not missing anything,"
Absolutely.
which I
'Cause we're
I
not
would
perfect.
appreciate. No,
Yeah.
no, and, like, we're looking at them fast, like, I've even had sometimes where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going in, I'm looking at the x-rays and I'm like, oh, yeah, those look really good. And then like I'll walk away and then I'll come back and I'll like look at them again and I'll be like, oh, wait, you know what? I didn't notice this the first time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And not that it's like, if it was glaring and if it was something really bad, it would be a problem. But it's like a little thing, like, oh, I didn't really notice there was some like bridging spondylosis there, and like I wasn't like paying attention to that because I was looking at something else, and I like didn't do my full
Exactly.
review. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
little stuff
And
like that.
And I think people don't understand it's literally 50 shades of gray. Like, literally, when you look at an X-ray, you're looking
Yeah,
at, like, just
yeah,
different variations, like, for something very subtle you may not see, and if it helps to have just a backup piece of equipment that is only gonna get better with time, that's the
yeah,
cool thing. Like, it only
yeah.
just gets getting better. I think that's what's really exciting about it. So and at the end of the day these tools are here, they're starting to show up. It's a question about the adoption,
Right,
right? Like
right, yeah.
our industry as a whole struggles with new changes.
Yes.
Um, and I we need the help. I think that's
Mhm.
what it comes down to. Like, we can't veterinarians don't grow on trees. Veterinary technicians do not grow on trees. So we've got to find a way to supplement the work that we're doing faster. And I
Right.
think AI has the potential to really help us get there. Um, but there's some like cool stuff on the horizon. And I know last year when I went to this thing, they talked about virtual reality and how that can help with education. And that was really cool as well. Like just being able to um essentially put on a pair of glasses with the surgeon, like, doing surgery, and you're gonna be right next to them in surgery because you can see exactly what they see,
Yeah.
and it's, like, almost like those, the Meta, uh, was it the Meta Facebook helmet or whatever it's called, Meta Quest? The I don't know, it's like the big visor. I
Oh,
have one
yeah.
I have one, I should be able to show it here,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's great the virtual reality is, like, so spot on, like, I've had
Yeah.
moments, like, I'm using it in my own house, and like I'm crawling on the floor to dodge bullets, and I realize I'm so glad no one else is around right now because I look like a fool. But it's real, like it just
Yeah.
you feel very like engaged in it. So
Yeah.
that's what they showed, like, and it's the surgeons across the country that can do this, and
Yeah.
you could teach
Oh, yeah.
1,000 students at once. So just the technology, I think, can help us if we're open to it.
Right. Right.
It's just gotta be open to it.
Well, and I think it'll be nice too, because I'm wondering if it would give like students the chance, especially now that we're not really doing non-survival surgeries and stuff like that, like would it really give them a chance to be in a situation where, there's a bleeder or there's a, what I mean, something that you don't get from cadaver surgeries that,
Mhm.
you just don't experience until you're in the world. And I think probably one of the reasons why we get like so stressed about surgery or things like that is that like maybe we didn't get enough time before we
Mhm.
became like full-fledged big kid veterinarians, you know what I mean? And there's that
Oh, yeah.
period of time that's that learning period where if you don't have a senior vet that like will come in and scrub in with you and be like, all right, I'm gonna clamp this off and you're gonna tie it off and we're gonna figure it out, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
have a bit of a scary moment. It's a better time to do it. It would be if you could do it through virtual reality. You know what I mean?
And just that repetition, you could do it 20 times in one day because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just put on a helmet and you're I mean, it sounds like you're playing video games, but yeah, you put on a helmet and you go,
Well, why
and
not? I mean, muscle memory is muscle memory, right? Like, why not? I mean, if you could sit there and do hand ties, but actually do them not with like that cord, but with like an actual thing, and like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, then you'd be like, okay, I got this, I can do this, and then oh, I'm gonna suture, and now I
exactly.
got this. I
Yeah,
think there's
exactly.
a lot of space for that.
Mhm.
And then I'm wondering too. I didn't know if some of these other ones that were like looking at masses and things like that, that were like,
Mhm.
saying like whether or not like what's the chances of them being like malignant versus, you know what I'm talking about? Like there's a
Yeah,
new one now. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's AI or not, but I think it is.
it could be. I haven't heard about that one specifically, but it's
Oh,
just,
okay.
I don't know, it's crazy because I think we're going through transitions. I think the big thing like 3 or 4 years ago was telehealth. Being able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
help people over the phone,
Hmm.
be there for them, save them money from coming in, providing that support to other veterinarians and so forth.
Yeah.
Then, although last year was about virtual reality, I think that was farther off. I think last
Hmm.
year should have been more about AI because it will have some AI component to it as well, but the AI was bigger. Like
Yeah.
that's our next big step. And then the virtual reality is not far off because they're using it in human medicine already, which is cool. So it's not
Oh, yeah.
we're not too far behind. We just gotta be willing to adopt it and move faster with it because I think it can just change so much about our industry and allow us to do more with what we have.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of like robotic surgery and stuff like that. And I feel like
Mhm.
that all came a lot of it after like the laparoscopic surgery and stuff like that. Cause I do
Mhm.
remember like my dad even being like learning laparoscopic surgery. Like I remember when that happened, like him
Mhm.
watching videos and being like, yeah, we're gonna do surgery through this. Like they like it was, you know what I mean? Cause he became a doctor in the 80s and then that, I don't know, somewhere in the
That's
90s, I guess.
crazy.
So like he was in that and adopted that and then became like did laparoscopic surgery like so from open laparotomies to so it's a crazy thing that he saw happen. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's just there's really innovative people trying to do things. And
Yeah.
actually, a colleague of ours, um, actually, he was a resident when Sam and I were both students.
Hmm.
He's a surgeon now out in Austin, Texas. But he's actually doing some cool stuff too. He went to this conference to like just learn more about what's going on. But he's creating a huge surgical suite that's got like 3 floors. It's gonna be like not low cost, but like significantly more affordable surgeries for pets. But what's really cool about it is he's building it to do clinical trials at the same time. So every time they do a
Oh, cool.
surgery, they have an entire floor that's like force plates. So after every surgery, they're gonna like say, "Hey, what was the angle affect how well they can load their foot afterwards?" Or when we do a back surgery, like if we do a different technique, does that help improve outcomes? And they're just gonna have so much data built in
Oh,
because they can
no.
literally
Wow.
study the patients every day as they're walking. And it's just like it's just some simple stuff like that. But people just care about making the profession better. And
Mhm.
I think that's the summary of it. People
Yeah.
you met people at this conference where it's like, I want to make the world better. Like, yes, we
Right.
wanna like they wanna finance themselves a little bit. That's obviously,
Sure.
like, that's important.
Sure.
You can't work for free,
Nope.
but they got into this and honestly, that they can make a decent living, they'd be happy just saying, "Hey, I made a significant difference in our industry because it's
Yeah.
solving a massive pain point," and that was cool to watch.
Yeah. I feel like it's something that is so like it really goes back to like the ethos of like how like why we are doing what we're doing and like
Mm,
what we care about and like everybody if you sort of just take a step back and you go like okay like how can we use our strengths and the things that we understand the things that we learned and really try to say okay what would make this next generation of veterinarians want to stay in this industry
mhm,
have a better life while doing it and then how do we help our patients and then help the owners too because the owners aren't going anywhere the patients aren't going anywhere in fact there's more and more people who have pets and unfortunately a lot of people really are struggling financially and so it's like okay we're going to try to make things better and I like really think this is such a cool conference that you got to go to and I'm really hoping to get to go to it next year because
that's the
um
hope.
yeah let's hope so but I just think it's so important because that is how you fix things. That's how you take that next sort of step. And so I feel like I'm glad that we got to be part of it and that you got to go and I mean I know you represented well. You always do.
You did good.
Um but I think that AI is cool. I'm a little, I mean, everyone saw Terminator, right? So like everyone's a little bit afraid of AI, I
Everybody saw
guess.
Terminator, it's a concern.
Yeah, it's a concern. I think like the last part too, that will be a really interesting thing to navigate with AI is like
Mm,
not those of us that had to do it ourselves, and then we use it to augment, but what happens with the new ones coming in, still like getting those skills down because like I even noticed the other day we had to do a urinalysis, right? And we didn't run it through the machine. We were just gonna look at it like straight. I haven't done that in I don't even know how long. And so it's like, it wasn't even like once I got it to like what I'm used to seeing, I know what
mhm,
I'm looking at because I look at the slides on the computer all the time.
yeah.
I look at it, I mean, the constituents of it look exactly the same. That hasn't changed. That skill's still there. But getting it from the urine, spinning it down, getting the thing, putting it on, being like, where's our dye? Like, where, you know what I mean? And like, I had to look at one without the dye. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is a skill like I've totally lost because I just don't do it this way anymore. And I wonder, at least I had it like pretty well ingrained. So, like, it was like riding a bike. It's like, oh, yeah, I could do this. Okay, let me just make sure there's no bacteria. We're good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna let you go. You know what I mean? And like I could
Absolutely.
see all the cells and everything. But like what happens if you don't ever learn that? Like that is the one thing that I think
Yeah.
some of those like old skills, like even like being able to get a cysto without an ultrasound, like that's how I learned to do it. And yes, obviously it's preferred, but what if your ultrasound breaks?
I think actually you make a really good point because and I've seen it with my interns in particularly because
Hmm.
they come out of school and, a lot of our hospital management systems have, templates so that way they can do their work faster. Like when I'm
Right.
talking to you about, skin infection,
Hmm.
something called superficial pyoderma, I can upload that template for them, and it's got all the information the owner needs to know about it.
Right.
Great. But back in the day when you and I started, we had to write that information. And
Like
so we knew
every
it because
time.
we yeah, like, I
Yeah.
say, like, we would
Yeah.
may write it the first time, but we knew it because we wrote it.
Right.
Now they're just getting it kind of pre-handed to them, so, like,
Yeah.
they don't know it. And that's what scares me a little bit because I know it because I wrote it. Now it's the other way around where they're just being given it and, like, I'm like, "Make sure you read over this. You need to know what you're telling owners because it's something that's like, it's important information." Like, you'll know be aware of it, but some things you don't know as a young student. You're learning a
Yeah,
lot, and,
you don't. You're just learning
um
you're drinking from a fire hose, and then I think depending on where you go into things, so like, for people going into emergency and critical care, like you never see the other side of it, right? Like you give the antibiotic but you don't know what it looks like in 2 weeks. So,
Yep,
like, I think that sometimes you're so removed, like, you know how to start the process, but you don't know how it turns out, and then
absolutely.
sometimes you change how you start the process if you saw the end. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'm learning
Yeah,
that very quick with the mobile vet stuff.
yeah.
It's just it's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, and to be fair, I bet you that there are emergencies or things that we start to work up that end up at the emergency clinic that if we saw what you saw, we'd start the process differently. So, like, I'm not saying it's one side or the other. I'm saying that
Yeah.
I think we learn a lot by putting ourselves in each other's shoes. Like, that is the thing that's good about like a rotating internship or something like that, is that like you have to do emergency and you see a few things, and then you have to do, general. I don't know if you do general practice in rotating. I don't know. I never did one. So
Can't remember now. It's
do
not
you
yeah, mine
primary
I
care?
had my internship, I had, like, a couple weeks on general.
Primary care. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was but just yeah, it's I think it's always good to wear the other shoe, and even
I
for our
don't know.
technician.
That's maybe our next venture. We should build a hospital and be like, okay, kids,
Sam, I got ideas for
do
you, you have
both
no
sides.
idea. I've got things for you, so we'll talk off. We don't want people stealing our ideas, obviously,
Yeah,
but
right,
we've got
exactly.
plans, don't worry.
Yeah,
You and I are in this for the long haul,
it's true.
so,
It's true. You're stuck with me.
uh,
Sorry.
there are worse people, I promise. But no, it was, I think in summary, it was a cool conference. I'm
Yeah.
excited to bring you and Amy actually next year because I think I need two busy bees to go make a lot of friends. And I feel like
Who can talk to a wall? Yeah, there you
that's
go.
literally what I need. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna release you guys to the wild and see what happens. And be like,
Yeah.
I'll come back, you'll have 30 friends. I'm like, good. That's all I needed you guys to do. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I'm good
that's
for
fun.
at least one thing, making friends wherever I go.
Oh, you're good for many things. But that's we all have special talents. That's one of yours.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. If people have any more questions about AI and veterinary medicine, or just if you hear about something, we always like to learn more, or even have people on that are possibly trying to like open up this space. And I'd be curious to know, like, yeah, what are going to be the checks and balances on those things, and like what are people doing? I think innovation is better when there's less sort of guards on it, but at the same time, we do have to look at safety and just making sure that it doesn't take over the world. That's all.
Exactly. I
Sci-fi.
think I'm excited. I think there's some cool things on the horizon, and it'll only get better from there.
Yeah,
So, looking forward to sharing that with all you guys soon. And
yeah.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, thanks for sharing it with us. I really enjoyed this. I like always getting a chance to hear about what's new. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been the Posit Podcast.
Thanks, guys.